Hi everyone! Today we're going to be doing an experiment, and for this experiment you're going to need, first you're going to need these two papers that printed. It says Floating Egg Experiment Part 1, and then you're going to need Floating Egg Experiment Part 2. So you're going to need these two papers. You're also going to need something to write with, and to do the experiment with me you'll need a cup or a glass or a container of plain regular water and another cup of water, and we're going to need also salt. We're also going to need 2 eggs. So these are regular eggs that came from my refrigerator. 2 eggs. Okay, so we're going to get started. So we're going to first take our regular cup of water and we're going to put in an egg, and we're going to try to see what happens with our regular cup of water. We're also going to take our second cup of water and add salt to it and also put in an egg and see what happens. So before we do our experiment, we're going to take out our first sheet, Floating Egg Experiment Part 1, and over here we're going to make a prediction in these boxes. You're going to draw what you think will happen when we put the egg in the cup of regular water, and then over here you're going to draw what you think will happen when we put the egg in salt water. Do we think the egg is going to fall to the bottom of the cup, or do we think the egg is going to float at the top? Do we think it's going to happen in both the regular water and the salt water that it's going to float, or do we think both of them are going to sink, or do we think they're going to be different? So you're going to make a prediction, and you're going to draw in each box what you think will happen, and on the bottom you can write a few words of what you think will happen. I think it will sink in the salt water, or I think it will sink in the regular water, I think it will float in the salt water, I think it will float in the regular water. Whatever it is that you think will happen, you're going to just write a few words. So you're going to pause the video and you're going to draw and write what you predict, and when you're done you're going to unpause the video and you're going to watch what happens. So, now that you've finished predicting and drawing what you think will happen and writing about it, we're going to see what happens. So we're going to do our experiment. So I have my cup of regular water and I have my cup of salt water. I'm going to add some salt to my second cup to make salt water. So I have regular salt from my house. I'm going to add some salt in. So I'm adding salt into my cup. And I'm going to, you need about like 3 tablespoons of salt for a cup like this. You need a lot of salt, and you need to mix it. You can see most of my salt went to the bottom, and now I'm mixing it and to have enough salt. So all mixed around in the water. So I'm going to show you the difference. This cup looks clear. This cup looks a little murky. It looks a little white and cloudy inside, and that's because it has salt in it. It's salt water. There's a place in Israel, actually, there's something called the Dead Sea, and that is a sea that has tons of salt in it. And if you ever visited the Dead Sea, and you went in it, you'll know what's special about the Dead Sea. And we're going to see if it's really true using cups of water and an egg. So we're going to take our egg, our first egg, we're going to put it gently into our cup of regular water, and we're going to see what happens. What do you think is going to happen? So let's look. What happened to our egg in the water? It went all the way to the bottom. It sunk. When something falls to the bottom, it sinks. So our egg here sunk. It sunk to the bottom. Do we think the same thing is going to happen to our salt water, or do we think it's going to be different? Only one way to find out. Let's try it. So going back to our second sheet, we have Floating Egg Experiment Part 2. You can draw what happened when it went into the regular water. You can draw a picture of the cup and the egg on the bottom. And now we're going to see what happens when we put it in the salt water. This is the result of our experiment. So we're going to take our cup of salt water, we're going to mix it again just to make sure the salt is all around and it's not, okay, and let's get ready to try it. So we're going to take our egg, going to drop it carefully in the water. We're going to see what happens. And I'm going to show you what happened to our egg in the water. Did it fall to the bottom? Did it sink? Or did it float? So I'm going to show you the 2 cups and we're going to see the difference. In our regular water, 1 egg fell to the bottom. But in our salt water, the egg stayed on top. Now even if I push it down, it's going to just bounce right back up. See? Bounce, right back up, bounce, right back up. So it's pretty cool that it floats in salt water and it floats in regular water. So we're going to now take our second sheet of paper and we're going to draw and write about what happened. So using your paper, you're going to draw what happened in the regular water. You're going to draw the eggs that it sunk, and in the salt water, you're going to draw a picture of a cup and the egg that floated. And then you can write what happened, that the egg in the salt water floated and the egg in the regular water sank to the bottom. So I hope you enjoy this experiment. The reason we did this experiment is because we're learning about different places in Israel. And in Israel, there's a place called the Dead Sea. And the Dead Sea is so full of salt that anyone who goes in it will float. Even if you don't know how to swim, you'll just float. And that's a special thing about salty water. The salt makes the water heavier than whatever's in the water, and therefore everything floats. So regular water, the egg is really, this is salt water. Regular water, the egg is heavier than the water, so it falls to the bottom. But when you put salt in the water, the egg becomes much lighter than the water, and it floats to the top. So here we have it. We have our saltwater egg. We have our regular water sinking and floating. And try this at home and write about it and send your teachers pictures. We'd love to see you experimenting and predicting and writing about the results. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Bye everybody.